Yakuza has been falling off. It's a truth we just have to admit. It feels like every week I get on Twitter and find something new that people are pissed off at. The issue is that they're mostly right. There are a myriad of issues that RGG have been ignoring that have built up over time and has led to a massive decline in the fans' love and passion for the series. I really hate doom posting, so I'm not gonna do that. I feel like it's really easy to just mindlessly hate, and I don't fault anyone for doing so, but personally, I'd like to discuss this fall off in a constructive way. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over how, in my eyes, RGG can bring the series back to its former glory. For the past 4 years, we have been getting a game each year. 2023 gave us Ishin Kiwami and Kiryu Gaiden, 2024 gave us Infinite Wealth, 2025 gave us Pirate Yakuza, and 2026 has given us Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties. While I do understand the business decision to shove out a new game every year, out of these 5 releases, only one has been a mainline title with actual good effort put in, which wouldn't be an issue if the other 4 had real quality to them, but in reality they are a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, you have a weird Unreal Engine experiment in Ishin Kiwami, then fair enough, you have a really good game in Kiryu Gaiden, but then you kind of have this like low effort, like cartoonish, mindless, but fun pirate story in Pirate Yakuza, and then you get whatever the fuck Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties was. It's not really worth wasting studio effort and resources on projects that fans will forget the week after they come out. It's cool that you could make Gaiden in 6 months, but that doesn't mean that you need to. Instead of yearly releases, bi-yearly releases would come out far more favorable for everyone. No one gets fatigued of the Yakuza games, the devs get more time to work on it, and we end up with a better quality product. If it's about profits, then port over RGG Online to the West. There is a huge demand for RGG gacha in the West, and a lot of people already play the Japanese version with like a Google Translate filter or something. I mean, the game itself is just gacha, so people are already expecting to spend a lot of money for a very low effort product. I feel like it's a very easy thing to do. I'm very much aware that likeness actors are a big thing in Japan, and that these games aren't just catered to us fans in the West, and they're actually probably more primarily targeted towards the Japanese audience. So I'll keep that in mind with this critique. Now, in general, I think having a likeness actor as a character that is contained to a single game is not a problem at all. Such as Toro Hirose from Yakuza 6, which is played by Takeshi Kitano. That is a character that is contained to only Yakuza 6, so that means you won't really have to deal with any of the business issues, any of the scheduling issues with hiring the actor again. Now, my issue is when they cast a likeness actor in a primary role, such as Yagami from the Judgment games. Have you ever wondered why Judgment 3 hasn't happened yet? It's because Yagami's likeness actor has a talent agency that's incredibly hard to work with. So much so that they wouldn't even grant his likeness in the Kaito Files DLC for Lost Judgment. Another issue arises if a character's likeness actor just deadass stops acting, like what happened to Tanimura in Yakuza 4. A lot of people think he was recast for the remaster because of controversies, but in actuality, the guy just quit acting, so he couldn't re-record some stuff for the remaster, so they just chose to recast him. Another issue arises is if your likeness actor is, I don't know, a genuine sex pest maybe? This decision will just always baffle me when he stands against every principle this series has tried to promote. So all in all, I do understand that likeness actors are huge in Japan and are often amazing performances. I mean, not always, but still pretty often. However, I think the cons outweigh the pros. Going forward, I'd like to see likeness actors be contained to a single game, and I'd also like them to have thorough background checks. On the topic of likeness actors, no one wants beloved characters recast. I get it in Ishin Kiwami because that's already a non-canon game, so the character likeness is just kind of whatever. But why replace Oji Rakia, Nakahara, and Hamazaki? Their original character design was absolutely incredible, and their original voice performances were top tier. And they replaced each and every one of these characters with, in my opinion, across the board worst performances. Hamazaki especially is awful. Like, even if he wasn't a terrible person, his performance as Hamazaki almost feels like an entirely different character, and not in a good way. And Rikia just lost all of his sauce with this recast, man. His look matched his vibe perfectly in the original. Replacing him with the guy from Tokyo Vice just shifted the vibe entirely, and his performance was extremely phoned in. I think they just can't win with recasts unless it's absolutely necessary, because everyone will just prefer the original no matter what, because that's who they're used to, and that's who they've come to love.
'Cause I'm the Taxman. Yeah, I'm the Taxman.
The thing RGG needs to understand is that fans are willing to pay for a quality product. If they want to squeeze some more money out of us, they can, but just do it in a way that is respectful to the player, such as some cheap cosmetic DLCs for diehards that are in no way required, or booster packs to make the game easier if you're into that kind of thing, which again is in no way required. Or maybe if you love us enough, do something like the Kaido Files DLC, which was its own Gaiden game and was universally well received. But please, for the love of God, do not design your entire game to force the diehard fan to pay for your shitty DLC. In Infinite Wealth, New Game Plus was completely paywalled. You could not play New Game Plus without the Master Vacation Bundle DLC, which goes for $20. Now, if you just made it so that the dungeon alone is paywalled, I actually think the DLC would have been pretty worth it. I mean, you get some of these funny scenarios in between each sector. You get to refight a bunch of the bosses of the game. It's just a fun time. It's not necessary. It's just something extra if you want it. But when you paywall a feature as essential as New Game Plus, it's just incredibly anti-consumer. This isn't the only poor business practice from RGG. They have delisted the original versions of Yakuza 0, Kiwami 1, and Kiwami 2 from PlayStation, Steam, and Xbox. For Kiwami and Kiwami 2, it's okay, I guess, because it is the same game, going for the same price, but there are just some technical upgrades and quality of life features added. But in Yakuza 0 Director's Cut's case, there are changes to the actual story that are genuinely very impactful and important to the story. And I know it's subjective and opinions based, but most fans can agree that the new cutscenes in Zero Director's Cut are whack. So erasing the original Yakuza 0 from platforms makes Zero Director's Cut the new canon and the only version of the game that new players will ever be able to experience, which is absolute bullshit. RGG released Zero Director's Cut at a $50 price point, and they knew it couldn't hold a candle to the value of the original Yakuza 0 going for $20, so they chose to completely get rid of the option to even try the original out. It's just a complete lack of confidence in the product, a complete lack of respect for the consumer to make their own decisions, and just terrible for the preservation of Yakuza 0. RGG did seem to get the message of the Zero delisting though. So by the time Yakuza Kiwami 3 came out, they didn't delist the original Yakuza 3, instead they hid it behind a $120 bundle. This is just an abhorrent business decision that just doesn't make any sense. Anyone can tell you that Yakuza 3 Remastered and Yakuza Kiwami 3 are two different games, and Kiwami 3 is not a replacement for Yakuza 3, especially if the game is following an altered story from the original with an entirely different lineup of side content. There is reason to play Kiwami 3, and there's also reason to play 3 Remastered. So why would you put a $120 paywall for 3 Remastered? Look at Final Fantasy VII, a game that has also received an altered remake. If you go on Steam right now and look up Final Fantasy VII, you will find the remake as well as the original side by side because there's reason to play both. But if you look up Yakuza 3, you won't even find a purchase button, and the only way to play it is if you scroll down, find the Yakuza Complete Series bundle, and buy Yakuza 0 through 6 along with it. It's just absolutely stupid.
Watching the bells, watching the lights, what I want is far away.
Now let me be clear, I have no issue with Gaiden games, contrary to the general opinion. I actually have enjoyed my time with all 3 Gaiden games so far. I think it's because I have my expectations set where they need to be. In Japan, Man Who Erases Name, Pirate Yakuza, and Dark Ties are all referred to as Yakuza 7 Gaiden, Yakuza 8 Gaiden, and Yakuza 3 Gaiden. This directly translates to these games being side stories to Yakuza 7, 8, and 3. So in Japan, they market these games to be more like DLC, and I think if everyone went into the Gaiden games with the mindset of them being DLC, they would be much more positively received. So why advertise them as their own things? Gaiden games foundationally do not work without the context of the game it's attached to, and they are very short. So why advertise Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties as 2 games in one, when really it's just one game with DLC included? Like, look at the Kaido Files DLC. The game is about as long as Dark Ties, and it was marketed and sold as DLC to Lost Judgment, and was positively received across the board. So if you just set expectations where they need to be for Gaiden games, then we wouldn't be getting 30-page think pieces about how Pirate Yakuza ruined the franchise forever. A major complaint of Infinite Wealth is that they set up Ichiban as the protagonist going forward in Yakuza 7, only to bring back Kiryu and make him the main character in 8, which I don't completely agree with, but I do see the point and somewhat agree. I personally think since they brought back Kiryu in Yakuza 7, Infinite Wealth was necessary for Kiryu's character. And I also think that Ichiban's story was actually very underrated and was very close to being on par with Kiryu's in Infinite Wealth. But that's a discussion for another video. The main point is that now that Infinite Wealth is over, I think Kiryu should be over with. They gave him an incredible last adventure and ending in Infinite Wealth. They showed us a new side to him. We got a lot of conclusions to a lot of his personal story arcs across all of the games. Just let him rest. Either kill him off or show us him at the orphanage just living out his final days. But please do not bring him back as a playable character. RGG crafted a perfect follow-up to Kiryu in Ichiban, and I think going forward, they should just let Ichiban run the games. This one is a smaller complaint, but a recent thing in the Yakuza games has been forcing the player to do all the side content the game has to offer before continuing with the main story. This is stupid, and all it does is make the player resent the side activity, because the player wants to continue the story, but is forced to do some bullshit for an hour before they can get back to what they actually want to do. I think just leave it at optional, maybe introduce it for like a tiny bit during the main story just so the player knows it's there, and just leave it there. Even as a massive fan of both Infinite Wealth and Man Who Erases Name, there are questionable plot lines and conclusions to interesting plot lines that ultimately went nowhere. If the story didn't have the emotional attachment we have to Kiryu and Ichiban as a safety net, a lot of the things would have fell even more flat. Pirate Yakuza I could take with a grain of salt because I knew they were trying to go for like some silly fun pirate adventure game, but you can't deny that the story did lack quality and had cartoon level writing. And every new story decision they added into Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties, such as Hamazaki's new stuff and Daidoji Mine, just flat out sucked. It's also important to note that if you were like me and pleasantly surprised with Dark Ties, you may be shocked to find out that Dark Ties was ripped from a RGG Online story, and the only new thing they added was the Daidoji bullshit that ruined the story. I mean, you really cannot make this up. So from the way I see it, everything new that has been written since Nagoshi departed is not without its problems. Now, this is not to paint Nagoshi as a writer who could do no wrong. There are a lot of questionable plot lines in the previous Yakuza games, but for the last few games he was a part of, such as both Judgment games and Yakuza 7, he was just in his bag. In my opinion, I think Yakuza 7 is far and away the best quality story of the entire franchise. And that was Nagoshi. That was one of the last things he did. And another thing to mention about Nagoshi is that the issues with the plot never really got this major. He knew his limits, he knew how to craft the drama, and probably most importantly, he knew how to respect the stories of the previous games. The new stories feel like they're coming from someone who is just completely out of touch with the series. I feel this way because if someone writes the Mine Daidoji scene, thinking we are genuinely going to get hype. They really do not know what we the fans want. I don't mind a new approach or a different take on the franchise, but when you're trying to turn Yakuza into the MCU, it just becomes so ridiculously out of touch and makes the game feel like it was written by corporate. The way the studio has dealt with the Kagawa controversy has honestly stunned me. I say this because they were receptive to this kind of thing in Judgment when Hamura got involved in a drug scandal and they chose to completely recast him. So they'll do that for Hamura, but in Kagawa's case, they'll choose to flat out ignore his assault scandals. I mean, not even a statement. When your entire replies are flooded with remove Kagawa to the point where it is literally impossible that you haven't noticed, as a studio you must understand that the fans are not attacking you as the studio. They are just expressing their disappointment with your decision to hire this guy and asking you to right a wrong. I fully understand not listening to fans for creative decisions. That is more than fair enough. Steve Jobs said it best. Most people don't know what they want till they get it. But when it comes to situations like Kagawa, where it is about morals and principles, you simply have to listen to your fans. Death has been a huge theme in these games, dating back to Yakuza 1, where literally everybody besides Kiryu, Date, and Haruka died. And those deaths really meant something. You could see Kiryu shattered by the end of the game, and only choosing to go forward for Haruka's sake. This gave everybody's death meaning and purpose. Now what if Nishiki, Yumi, and Kazuma just got rebooted in Yakuza 9? It would make the whole Yakuza 1 mean nothing, which is my point exactly. Retconning deaths makes the player not believe or connect with any death going forward, because they'll just think that the character is going to sit out a few games, and then when the fans start to miss him a little bit and the character starts to rise in the popularity polls, they'll just end up joining the Daidoji and will be back eventually. So what's the point of grieving his death? It was cute when it was Kashiwagi and Andre Richardson returning in a capacity that absolutely will not affect the story, but then it kept getting worse in Yakuza 0 Director's Cut and even worse in Dark Ties. Just let the dead be dead and let their stories mean something. Now what's done is done and cannot be changed, but going forward, change needs to happen for the series to get back to its previous glory. It's easy to say that the new games are flopping because Nagoshi left the studio and he was the mastermind behind everything, but I think Nagoshi left for a reason. He understood that he alone can't help the studio around him entirely. They're going down the deep end. It's clear he still wants to make Yakuza games. I mean, look at Gang of Dragon. Everything about this is just straight up a Yakuza game. It's even set in the same place. But something was going wrong and Nagoshi really couldn't fix it. I hope the universal negative reception to Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties, as well as Zero Director's Cut, really gets through to RGG and we can see major improvement going forward. For me, I said this in my last video, I don't think a mainline release has really suffered from a major lack of quality yet. But the way things are going, from Pirate Yakuza to Zero Director's Cut to Kiwami 3 Dark Ties, it seems inevitable that Yakuza 9 will suffer the same lack of quality unless something changes. That's all for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think RGG can do to fix. If I missed something, another thing RGG can fix, put it in the comments. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. If you think RGG have just completely gone off the deep end, there's no coming back, the series is washed, also let me know. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys next time, and peace.